Someone secretly living under your name, it's about to be exposed in the light. My beloved child. Listen closely, because what you are about to hear is not a story told for comfort, but a truth that has waited patiently for the right moment to breathe. Somewhere between your name and your shadow, a presence has been moving quietly, wearing familiarity like a borrowed coat, using your identity as a key to doors you never opened. You felt it as confusion before you understood it as danger. Small delays. Missed opportunities. Strange echoes where your voice should have been alone. Tonight, the silence breaks. This is not about fear. This is about clarity. Because the one living under your name believed darkness was permanent, believed light was optional, believed truth could be postponed forever. They were wrong. Every borrowed step leaves a mark. Every false smile leaves a crack. And now the ground beneath them is trembling, not with violence, but with exposure. The kind of exposure that does not shout, but reveals. The kind that does not chase, but waits. You were chosen to hear this because your intuition has already been knocking, and this moment answers that knock with precision. Stay with this voice, because what unfolds next will change how you see your past, your present, and the power hidden inside your name. There is a reason certain moments in your life felt delayed, as if time itself hesitated around you. It was not chance. It was interference. Someone learned your patterns before you noticed the repetition. They studied the way your name opened trust, the way your presence lowered defenses, the way your identity carried weight without noise. They stepped into spaces meant for you, not boldly, but carefully, leaving just enough distance to remain unseen. This was not imitation. This was occupation. While you were building yourself quietly, they were borrowing your reflection loudly in places you never stood. But understand this clearly. Borrowed light never warms. Borrowed identity never lasts. The cracks have already begun. A word spoken out of place. A decision that did not match your character. A reaction that felt wrong to those who truly know you. These are not accidents. These are signs. And signs, once aligned, become signals. The signal has now reached the surface. The world is beginning to notice that something does not fit. That the story told under your name carries inconsistencies that truth does not tolerate for long. The one hiding knows it. That is why the tension has been rising, why the mask feels heavier, why escape feels closer than confidence. What makes this revelation powerful is not the exposure itself, but the timing. Exposure always waits for the moment when it can no longer be ignored. The one using your name believed that staying close to you would keep them safe, that proximity would blur the lines forever. But proximity sharpens contrast. The closer they stayed, the clearer the difference became. You chose integrity without applause. They chose visibility without foundation. That difference has a sound, even when unspoken. People hear it. Situations react to it. Energy responds to it. That is why doors meant for them have started to close quietly. That is why explanations feel heavier to speak. That is why silence has become uncomfortable. Because truth does not rush, but it never forgets. The light approaching is not harsh. It is accurate. It will not accuse. It will reveal. And when it does, there will be no need for confrontation, no dramatic collision, no loud ending. The truth will simply stand still, and the false will step back on its own. This is the moment before that stillness. This is the breath before clarity settles. You may wonder why you were not told sooner, why awareness waited until now. The answer is simple. Strength needed time to mature. Understanding needed space to sharpen. If this truth had arrived earlier, it would have felt like confusion. Now it feels like confirmation. You are not losing anything. You are reclaiming alignment. The one living under your name mistook your silence for weakness, mistook your patience for absence. They did not realize that silence is often observation, and patience is often preparation. You did not chase shadows because you trusted substance. That trust protected you more than you know. And now, as the light turns gently but firmly toward the hidden corners, you will not need to explain yourself. Your consistency has already spoken. Your restraint has already testified. The exposure will not demand your defense, because truth does not require rehearsal. It arrives complete. It arrives calm. It arrives undeniable. This is only the beginning, not the climax. The exposure does not happen in one moment, but in a sequence that feels almost merciful. A realization here. A question there. A pause that stretches just long enough for doubt to replace certainty. The one hiding under your name will feel at first as discomfort, then as urgency, then as inevitability. You, on the other hand, will feel something different. Relief without celebration. Clarity without noise. A quiet return to center. Because your name was never just a label. It was a responsibility. A frequency. A truth that cannot be worn by another forever. As this light continues to rise, remember this. You were never behind. You were never replaced. You were simply waiting for the moment when truth could no longer be delayed. And that moment has now begun. Before the world speaks, there is always a pause. In that pause, everything hidden starts to feel heavy. What was once easy to carry becomes unbearable. The one living under your name is now standing inside that pause, sensing the shift but not yet understanding its direction. They feel watched without being observed. Questioned without words. Exposed without accusation. This is how truth begins its work. Slowly. Precisely. Unstoppably. You may have noticed subtle changes already. People responding differently. Situations rearranging themselves without explanation. Opportunities returning to you after long silence. This is not coincidence. This is correction. The universe has a way of restoring balance without making noise. While they are busy adjusting stories, reality is adjusting outcomes. And reality does not negotiate. It only aligns. The closer the light comes, the more exhausting it becomes to pretend. What once felt like control now feels like pressure. What once felt clever now feels risky. The ground beneath their borrowed identity is no longer stable. And when stability leaves, truth enters. Understand this carefully. Exposure does not begin with discovery. It begins with recognition. Someone, somewhere, has already felt that something was off. A detail that did not match. A reaction that felt rehearsed. A confidence that appeared without depth. These impressions stack quietly, like pages turning in a book no one admits they are reading. The one hiding believes they are ahead of the story, unaware that the story has already passed them by. You, meanwhile, have remained consistent. Your energy has not changed. Your values have not shifted. That consistency is now acting like a mirror, and mirrors make imitation uncomfortable. The closer they stand to your truth, the more obvious their distance becomes. This is why tension is rising around them, not around you. This is why explanations feel longer, not clearer. Because truth speaks in fewer words, while deception requires maintenance. The light approaching is not dramatic. It is administrative. It corrects records. It aligns names with actions. It separates echoes from originals. There is something powerful happening beneath the surface that few notice until it is complete. The return of authorship. Your name is slowly coming back under your authority, not through force, but through resonance. People are beginning to associate outcomes with you again, clarity with you again, authenticity with you again. The one who borrowed your name cannot stop this, because it is not happening in public. It is happening in perception. And perception, once shifted, does not reverse easily. They may attempt to accelerate, to rush decisions, to secure positions before questions arise. But urgency exposes what patience conceals. Every rushed move leaves fingerprints. Every forced smile reveals strain. The more they try to stay ahead, the more visible they become. Meanwhile, you are not asked to act. You are asked to remain aligned. This is the hardest and most effective position. Stillness with awareness. Presence without pursuit. Because when truth is on your side, motion is optional. You might feel a strange mix of emotions during this phase. Validation without satisfaction. Awareness without anger. A quiet knowing that something long unresolved is finally correcting itself. This does not mean you were unaware before. It means you were protected from premature understanding. Some truths arrive only when they can no longer disturb your peace. The one living under your name expected confrontation, resistance, chaos. They prepared for noise. What they did not prepare for was silence backed by certainty. Silence backed by alignment is disarming. It leaves no entry point. No argument. No stage. And so the exposure will not look like a collapse. It will look like a withdrawal. A slow step back. A fading presence. A name that no longer opens the same doors. A recognition that no longer lands. This is how borrowed identities end. Not with scandal, but with irrelevance. As this phase unfolds, remember this truth. You were never meant to fight for what was already yours. Your name carries a signature that cannot be replicated indefinitely. Integrity leaves patterns that imitation cannot sustain. The light now rising is not here to punish. It is here to restore order. When the exposure completes, you will not feel victorious. You will feel whole. And the one who lived under your name will not be destroyed. They will simply be revealed as separate, unable to hide behind what was never theirs to begin with. This is the quiet power of truth. It does not need permission. It does not need witnesses. It only needs time. And time, at last, has chosen your side. There is a moment when reality shifts without announcing itself. It does not knock. It does not warn. It simply rearranges the weight of things. That moment has already arrived. The one who lived under your name feels it now as restlessness, as a subtle loss of confidence they cannot explain. What once felt natural now feels forced. What once flowed now resists. This is because borrowed identity has an expiration, and that date is not written on a calendar. It is written in energy. The light drawing closer is not aggressive. It is methodical. It is checking facts without emotion. It is aligning truth without urgency. And alignment is uncomfortable for anything that does not belong. You may notice how conversations around you are changing tone, how people pause before responding, how certainty is being replaced by curiosity. This is not about suspicion alone. This is about awareness waking up. Awareness does not accuse. It observes. And observation is enough to weaken any false structure that depends on assumption. The most revealing phase is always internal. Before exposure reaches the outside world, it collapses from within. The one hiding under your name is now questioning their own footing. They replay moments. They overthink responses. They adjust behavior too late. This inner instability leaks outward in subtle ways. Inconsistencies grow louder. Confidence becomes performative. Authority feels borrowed even to them. This is the cost of wearing something that does not fit. Meanwhile, you are experiencing something different. A quiet return of trust. People leaning in rather than away. Opportunities resurfacing without explanation. Not because you demanded them, but because truth naturally attracts alignment. This contrast is widening every day. You are becoming more yourself without effort. They are becoming less convincing despite effort. This widening gap is not visible yet to everyone, but it is undeniable to those who matter. And those are the only ones that ever count. What makes this stage powerful is that no one needs to be told what is happening. Recognition spreads silently. It moves through intuition, through patterns noticed, through questions that linger longer than answers. The one using your name may sense this and attempt to anchor themselves deeper, to assert presence more strongly. But assertion without authenticity always feels loud. And loudness draws attention. Attention leads to examination. Examination leads to clarity. This chain cannot be broken once it begins. You are not responsible for accelerating it. You are responsible for not interrupting it. Your restraint is your strength. Your consistency is your evidence. Every time you choose calm over reaction, you allow truth to do its work cleanly. And clean truth leaves no residue, no confusion, no need for explanation. There is also something important happening to your perception of yourself.